Hey yo, so we're super excited to have Live Overflow with us on our show here today. He seems
Yeah.
kind of cool. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Uh, yeah, no, pretty sweet. Yeah, so we're here. Basically, we're gonna do some for people who are listening from his channel. We do a podcast called ThugCrowd, and it's just basically all about hacking infosec news, and we talk to some of our favorite hackers who are doing cool stuff around the world. Um, And so we'll do a little bit of news, and then we'll talk with Live Overflow here about what he does. Maybe he'll chime in on some of our news stories as well. So yeah, I posted the show notes in the chat. If anybody didn't see it, it's right here again and here. So yeah. So yeah, before we start off though, does anybody have anything cool they did this weekend or any projects they've been working on? You want to discuss real quick?
I discovered this little record shop in my town that they have a whole bunch of pinball machines and arcade cabinets in the back to take quarters.
Yeah.
Spent probably 2 hours there.
That's awesome. Pinball machines are a marvel of engineering.
Oh yeah, man. They're
Yeah.
There's actually some interesting software that you can, like, if you're into pinball, but you're like, oh, I have no space to install 700 pinball machines. There's a project that is on the internet where you have like a 42-inch screen as the pinball machine, and then another screen at the back, and there's software that runs on Windows that emulates all these different tables, and then people build like the frame and put the bumpers and stuff so they get the feedback. They do the if you tilt, it'll not go and stuff. It's like pretty crazy.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's like a DIY thing. So it's a combination. You get to have a combination of like computing, software, electronics, and put it all together and build it yourself. I have no idea what it's called. I just saw one and it was sweet.
That's really cool. I spent a good amount of time today trying to get that what's it called? That TCP SAC DOS working.
Oh yeah.
Somebody ended up, I don't even know what happened. It was somebody actually from Canberra in Australia just started like hitting the port that I was hitting on the box that I was testing. So I just changed like the output to say like "Sup Canberra" and tested something, and no one has said anything about it since then. But if you were the person who was just randomly hitting the old challenge server for our CTF to get into our chat, that was me. So hi, tweet at us if that was you.
What's up, Sylvia?
Right, I was just like, they were actually trying to do something weird. I have the PCAP file. I didn't get to finish looking at it, but it's yeah, cool stuff.
That's right. That's where all the that's where a lot of the government employees are in Canberra. So
Sweet. Alrighty, let's get right into the news then. So the first thing that we have on here is pretty funny. So apparently there's a battle between this group of security researchers that were just like frustrated with the way that the WordPress forums work and the way that they can disclose vulnerabilities to them. So they found a couple of vulns recently, and they were in some Facebook plugins. So one of them was for Messenger customer chat. So it's like a custom chat window for Messenger on WordPress sites, and then Facebook for WooCommerce, which both of these combined have like quite a few people, like a couple 100,000 people that use them. And so apparently they just kind of were mad that the people just kept telling them that they shouldn't be like releasing like vulnerability disclosures on this forum here. And so they just got pissed and they just dropped another 2 POCs for both of these vulnerabilities just on the forum.
I mean, it's pretty funny though. WordPress bugs, especially in plugins, are a dime a dozen. So do we know, was this actually produced by Facebook, or is it just?
Yeah, so Facebook had produced these, and I think that they tried to go through the Facebook bug bounty program, and they didn't really count it because it's not in scope for their program for like just WordPress plugins. So then they just got kind of like frustrated with that, and then they just dropped the POCs on the forum. So Facebook did maintain and release these though.
I also looked at it quickly, and it looks like that this has been an ongoing thing with them and WordPress. They have disclosed vulnerabilities about WordPress plugins for a long time already. So it's not just that they were disgruntled about like this one handling here or something like this, but that this has been like an ongoing drama apparently.
Yeah. No, I mean I totally understand it. As much as it's as it's frustrating for the WordPress developers and the researchers who want to just, disclose vulnerabilities, get them fixed, especially for stuff that's got a huge user base, for something as big as Facebook. I see where both of them come from. Yeah, this drama though, we've had quite a few people that we know trying to disclose. We actually have a couple of ones we're going to talk about later that the similar thing happened, but it seems to be sort of a trend of people just not being satisfied with the way that vulnerabilities are triaged and handled.
There's one other interesting tidbit that I saw. Those researchers were also showing like a screenshot of like the Facebook official like plugin website had like a warning on there saying that this plugin hasn't been tested with the latest 3 major releases of WordPress. It may no longer be maintained or supported and may have compatibility issues used with more recent versions of WordPress. So this has been like an outdated, not used plugin anymore. And then this WooCommerce plugin started to include that Facebook additional plugin as like a default installation plugin. Yep. And so these researchers were also saying like, this plugin is unmaintained and this has been just added there. This is terrible. I find this also to be a kind of significant small detail to that story.
Yeah, absolutely. No, because so that's the other thing too, is that there's just like with Facebook Messenger and the Facebook app that comes just bundled and not uninstallable on so many different Android devices. It's just one of those things where you bundle it, and if you're going to bundle software and force people to have it, you have to maintain it. There's no way that you can't. It's like a slap in the face to not do that.
It's also the case on like you see on a lot of mailing lists, like CVE requests and stuff, where people are like, hey, have like 10 bugs in WordPress, can I have 10 CVEs? And miner will be like, no. And then so they're like, that's it, I'm going to full disclosure. And everyone's like, okay. Like that's kind of the WordPress thing,
Yeah. Just because there's just so many. It's just one of those things where hopefully it just goes away soon, but it definitely won't.
Yeah.
I think what was a link we had a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so, I don't know. We had a link at some point that was like 90%, I think maybe, of what like websites hacked to like WordPress, like out of like the PHP family of commonly used frameworks.
Yeah, it does not surprise me one bit.
Yeah, I definitely believe that.
It was significantly more than like I don't know. I think the second one, Drupal or something. I don't know. Whatever it was, or Magento maybe. Yeah, and it was just like so much higher. Yeah, one of the others. But because I guess so many people choose WordPress because everybody uses WordPress. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's definitely like the easiest out of all of these.
That's what I think. I think it's also the fact that it's so easy to set up. So a lot of people who might not have that security experience at all or even awareness, they have a WordPress site.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things. It's a ubiquitous technology that's easy for a lot of people to use, Facebook and WordPress. So it's just, I don't know. I just feel like the sort of landscape of it really needs to be, I think people should take a better look at it if they can, and researchers too. And it's like, I guess, I don't know what the whole plugin landscape is though, if you can actually just like say like, I'll just maintain it, because a lot of them are closed source too. So
with like WPackagist or whatever, which was also funny. There was like a shell expansion in the main search on that site at some point, but it was disclosed. But that's actually like a Composer repo, so that you can use Composer to manage dependencies. That's still not going to fix your WordPress.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the big things is, right, it's like when you're just adding on to someone else's stuff, right? Like you don't know how, like you don't have necessarily control or know exactly how everything else in that like ecosystem works. And there are very few people who are writing WordPress plugins who have, audited all of the WordPress code, because it's fucking giant and unmanageable. It's like one of those things that's bound to happen when you're just like spaghetti coding on to someone else's spaghetti code.
Yep. I guess if you're looking for an alternative to WordPress, there's like Pelican written in Python, which will do a static, like a CMS where you write Markdown and deploy it to like a static host, S3 buckets, or Octopress, or Jekyll. Like there's a bunch. So there's not like there's a lack of options out there. And for things like comments, you're like, static site, no interaction. Like you've always got things like Discuss or whatever. Like if Discuss gets owned, that's not your problem, right? So
Yeah, it's pushing it off onto someone else. But it's
Right.
I mean, that's why they're there, right? Because that is a service, and you can
yeah, that's their
mostly
models.
trust them. Yeah.
Woo-woo.
Also, yeah, Ghost Blog is pretty cool too, but I'm not a big fan of JS. But it's like the open source medium alternative.
Oh yeah. Oh, this next story here is pretty interesting. I guess I think it's the time that people who are writing Mirai variants are finally just smartening up a little bit. So this is by Campus Cody. It's about the EchoBot malware. It's basically just like a super Mirai bot that just uses every exploit, which it's weird to think that there hasn't been like a time where there's not like or it's weird that nobody has thought of kind of doing a sort of an auto-pwn type of thing with Mirai, because there's so many exploits that can be leveraged, and it seems like a lot of Mirai variants are based around like one or two different exploits that might have come out recently to try to pull the most bots, I guess, from it. But this one is just everything. So if you have a chance to look at it, you'll see all of your favorite CVEs from like 3 or 4 years ago just rolled into one.
Yeah, it's like that's what I call music album, but with CVEs and Mirai.
No,
I think
it's
so.
the greatest
One
hit
of the
from
reasons,
IoT phones.
I think one of the reasons why we haven't seen this yet is because we've needed somebody who wants to build a botnet out of Mirai and on top of Mirai, who also has the skills to, create a module that is each individual POC and has the knowledge to go, I need all of these vulnerabilities added. Like it's taken somebody who wants to do all this stuff and has the skills, whereas usually we only really see someone who wants to do it or somebody who has the skills who doesn't want to do it. It's kind of like writing Metasploit modules, right? Like, why do
Exactly.
you write a Metasploit module if you can just use Python POC? Like, you don't really give a shit, right? So now
Yeah.
somebody put two and two together.
That's a huge thing. That's so whenever I've looked at any Mirai variants, usually the vulnerabilities they're using are you'll look at the way that they'll pass data to say like a SOAP interface for a remote code execution vulnerability, and then the way that they pass data to like I don't know, something else that's uses like a get, right? So they'll just like change like the HTTP verb, but then like they'll have like other aspects of the header that are relevant to say like SOAP or some other protocol, and it'll just be still in there. There's actually it's funny. I meant to put this in the Safari Zone thing where Hermits had found a Mirai bot that had the standard output from the bot that was supposed to go to like the socket where the like back to the C2 was being dumped into the telnet username and password for a brute forcer. So it was like killing itself by having all these file descriptors just overloaded and shooting them off into telnet. But the fact that they couldn't even see what was happening to the bot, it says like successfully connected, scanner has started, brute forcing this IP, and it's just that's the login name. Like, pretty amazing.
Thanks,
yeah.
Stack Overflow.
They're finally starting up here. I think though that's probably has to do with the fact that all like the variable names are like anime references, and have all different anime characters in there that you're just kind of assigning to different variables and casting and recasting, and it just gets real messy.
Yeah, I accidentally sent it out to Naruto instead of
Sasuke. Yeah, I hate when you get those file descriptors next time.
You need to be you need to have all the knowledge about the different powers and abilities these characters have. Then all these variables make sense.
It makes perfect sense. As somebody who does like anime and looks at malware source code all the time, it's it's a trip. Sometimes like, why would you put these two variables together? They would hate each other in the
don't ship those variables.
What's really funny? Like, I'm looking at there's one of the bugs that was added in this that was a ubiquity error bug, which is like the nano beams and a couple of the other things. So not like the switches, not your generic APs and whatever. Because AROS is separate. And this is a CVE from 2010, and I can think of like 3 or 4 like mad meta ones. How like PHP 2 was running on those with like globals were like all GPC were globals, so you could just like ls.
Yeah.
So there's like way better, or like, well, not better, but way more bugs that they could have used that would, it's more likely that the older bugs have been patched as opposed to something a little bit newer. I don't know. I didn't see the point of bothering to add that one. I was like, that's a really weird addition.
It's honestly always just amazing to see stuff even gets out there. This is the kind of thing that cripples the internet, but it's just so terrible that it's laughable, and that's the horrible thing. Like a baby with a gun. It's just terrible. It really is.
Maggie Simpson.
Yes. So yeah, it's kind of the next story here. I actually just mentioned this earlier. The sad sack vulnerability here. This is pretty interesting. Somebody at Netflix had found this. It's basically a way to, so like the SAC part of the TCP stack basically allows you to, like, instead of saying like I only received up to like this amount of data in like a stream. I didn't receive these chunks of data, and then it's like for faster throughput for sending data in a stream, basically. And so the kernel, I guess the Linux kernel, if you have more than like 17, I think, of these structs that are supposed to hold the different chunks in the what's it called, in like the SAC queue, basically, it crashes the kernel. And so you have to also play with a little bit with like the maximum segment size, which is the what's it called, like the maximum amount of data that can actually be passed within a chunk. And so there's like playing with some of those different values will just break a Linux box. And a lot of them, I mean, every single one that I checked that I have control of has this enabled. So
one of the things I saw though was that this is part of the GSO, which is general segmentation, as opposed to TSO. So there is an Ethernet driver element to it as well. So not every machine is vulnerable. There's a bunch. I'm not sure of the exact specifics here, but there is like a separation of different Ethernet controllers that use each. So whether it's done in hardware handoff, like it matters.
Yeah, there's definitely some. I was trying to get it to work. I don't know if I was doing it correctly. I was just playing with Scapy a bunch, but yeah, I mean, I would play with this because it seems funny to just kind of exhaust resources. So basically, you're just making the kernel like traverse like a bunch of long linked lists that just contain massive amounts of data, and so yeah, it's pretty fun way to crash your own machine.
I noticed that it was reported by Netflix, so I assume they must have run into that in production. Like that, probably like some servers were just crashing randomly.
Absolutely. There's no way that like some like obscure like resource exhaustion bug would come from anybody but like Netflix or Google. So
just wait for their new exclusive show.
Some of the other variations that are not kernel panics as well were also just slowing down the machine as well, so slowing network traffic, which I think is probably way more annoying to Netflix, because Netflix use Chaos Monkey, right, where they just pull the plug on random. So whereas like instead of pulling the plug, they just slow the traffic down to n% of total throughput, and all of a sudden their CD is slow as hell, and everyone's watching 240p on their TV.
Absolutely.
Getting all these tickets.
Oh yes.
Yeah, shout outs to the team at Netflix.
There was a Netflix engineer streaming the other day on Twitch, trying to optimize like memory footprint of the Netflix TV app. He was instrumenting the Java VM that they were using to run on as an app on the TV, and he was trying to like change the memory allocation stuff to optimize that. And yeah, he was streaming that. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Netflix definitely do some pretty sweet engineering.
Yeah, definitely.
So this next one here is pretty cool too. This is I guess not that cool. It's so I guess FIP certified YubiKeys are not random enough. So,
Ouch.
so YubiKeys, if anyone doesn't know, are like little hardware tokens you can use to generate like cryptographic keys for, I guess, whatever you need to use them for.
They do like TOTP, HOTP, static strings, and other things like that. So there's usually two modes where you tap the button or you hold the button, and each button will give you a different value.
No, it's pretty cool. But so the FIPS is what does it stand for again? It's like the Federal Information Processing Standards. Basically, some standards that are used for like federal government, like military, like things that need like actually really good encryption.
Government level, would you say?
Yeah.
Military grade.
Military grade encryption. We need that. Base 64. So I guess they do some standard tests or self-tests with the hardware when it starts up, but it doesn't clear its buffer that holds the random values, and so the content in the self-test is like known, so it's predictable. And if you are using this for your cryptographic purposes, you're just kind of at some certain times sending like very not random data over there, and you can predict that and use that to your advantage.
I believe it was 3 captures. If you captured it 3 or 4 times, it was a very, very low number that you could then predict the seed.
Yeah, it was 3 times. But the thing that's interesting is also they have, firmware versions that are vulnerable.
Yeah.
So in theory, I guess reflash it.
Well, no, you need a hardware upgrade. So you actually get a free hardware upgrade if you're affected.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so this is the cool thing. This actually happened to me last time they did a free hardware upgrade. So I had a YubiKey. I was using it for a while. Bug comes out, put in serial number, free YubiKey, right? But the old YubiKey is still good. It's just broken in this one aspect that's not promised. So if you're going to use it for like static strings or holding other secrets that you maybe need, like less secure things that you don't need to use the FIPS compliance stuff for, it's still get a free YubiKey and use the old one as a different key.
2 things. One, I move by YubiKey. It's really nice that they're doing the replacement. But also, not everyone has that use case of, someone's trying to like capture 3 different things. If you're just using it to replace, SMS 2-factor, I don't think it's too terrible to still keep around.
No, definitely not. Like it's still a hardware token that needs to be taken from you, or at least its data. So if you get phished 3 times, the YubiKeys hasn't saved you anyway. You like sequentially fished 3 times, you've already fucked up. Like,
that's true.
Yeah, but it definitely has a use, and I think it's real great that YubiKey is sticking through it and replacing them.
Yeah, for sure.
So anybody see this before it got deleted? Samsung tweeting out that you should scan your smart TV for malware every few weeks.
I think you should go to the pawn shop and get a regular fucking TV.
Find one.
You have to just use their antivirus software and just scan your TV. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, that's a good first step, I guess, for securing it. But at the same time, why does your smart TV have vulnerability? Like, what is exposing to the internet besides something that would communicate directly with Samsung?
If you
I'm hoping that one day
if you've managed to like
that all of this smart shit is garbage, I'm just gonna stop making it.
Yes.
Okay, if your smart TV is either hooked up directly to the internet or has malware on it, you probably have bigger problems.
Yeah.
So I had this really weird scenario where I had an Ethernet cable plugged into my TV. Not that I ever use it. I was playing with it and stuff. It does DLNA, whatever. But it's on a separate network. But the only thing that was on the network with was a gateway, and it was getting these like weird pairing requests that were popping up on my TV, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like I didn't even know you could pair stuff to this TV. And I just swapped my gateway out to one that wasn't a piece of shit, and it went away. But it was definitely like really alarming. I was like, this is super sketchy.
Has anybody read anything about what kind of malware this is? Because to be honest, it was actually the first time that I've heard that you could get even malware on TVs.
I mean, they're
But
definitely running something, right?
Yeah, of course, but how would you get this?
What?
Like, there's not like an app store. Like, how would they get on there?
I
And,
would.
don't
I
know.
know for a fact some TVs you can do just like your basic format injection or whatever it's running through user fields, but I have a feeling it has to be something that's like you're on the network and you can interact with it, so you can pass data to it via whatever forms or
Hmm.
So
Well, they do have an app store on a lot of smart TVs for things like
that.
Netflix,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But also there was a talk at I think at DEF CON or Black Hat like maybe 4 or 5 years ago on owning smart TV like bugs in smart TVs. And as far as I can tell from looking at just the licensing in some smart TV manuals, like there's like licensing from Mozilla. There's like for the browser stuff. As far as I can tell, it's like Linux based,
For
firmware.
sure.
So.
It's just like all the owning of the smart TV is one thing, but making it like I'm not aware of anything that would allow like regular consumer like malware kind of stuff like injected ads. I know that this is theoretically possible, but I'm not aware how you would get like masses of people to get that kind of malware on a TV. I don't know.
It's also a good
Uh,
side question. What are you doing with it? Just like a
Yeah,
foothold on a network, or
there's an article from 2017 where LG smart TVs are infected with Android ransomware.
yeah, no. So some of the things are running Android. A lot of them also run WebOS, which like you can totally audit. But yeah, no, the landscape of it I think is a lot of it was more proprietary, where that people had to write their own sort of like internal set-top box for the TV with like apps and features and stuff. But a lot of them, I mean, it makes more sense to move towards something like Android, where it's a code base actually audited, and you can just have that on your TV. I have a TV that has WebOS, and actually Herman and I we lost our remote for our TV, and we were literally the laziest people and didn't find it and wrote a web app to be a remote to connect to the TV, and we still haven't found a real remote. Just have that. So it's cool when your TV does have an API and you lose your remote and you have like the the time, I guess, to write something like that. But other than that, I really don't know why, like what you need internet connected stuff for like that.
So is there like a REST API on your TV or something?
Yeah, I can post right now an alert to Hermit watching TV in the other room. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, good stuff. But yeah, if anybody does have any of that sweet TV ransomware, send it our way. So the next story that we have in here, Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security has tested a working Bluekeep exploit, which I don't know why this was even announced.
yeah. Wait, hold on. I know someone already wrote a Metasploit module for it. They just didn't publish it.
Yeah. Well, it's because like this is the build-up, right? Like, eventually something is going to make its way out into the public if it hasn't already. But it's just like everyone wants everyone else to know that the shit's coming and like it's doable as possible.
I mean, I think it's already been done, and before we're hearing about it now, someone's done it and just hasn't told anyone. Obviously,
100%.
like I don't know, but yeah, definitely the build up until it becomes part of the next botnet that we talk about in about a year and a half when some skids figure out how to.
Isn't this
botnet
also
it.
so damn serious because so many like point of sales terminals and whatever are running these old Windows versions with RDP, and it might not be the thing for like a worm on the public internet, but it might be like this total gem for anybody who is somewhere in an internal network.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, that's what I was
sure-
saying.
Nazi
We're like one like VPN exploit away from like a real bad time.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, even if it's not direct target like RDP pwned, and that's what you get. No matter what, low hanging fruit is still a good foothold. Same with the the SMB version 1 stuff. You popped one, now you have access to the entire network.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely
Yeah.
say there's some smaller cloud providers that are definitely going to be having a heavy investment in security this year.
But also like probably an uptake in like KEXSEC billboard shit, where people are out there hacking billboards with RDP.
Exec.
Haven't heard from them in a while.
Yeah.
Maybe they all went to jail. I don't know. It seems pretty crime.
That's totally true.
Ran out of billboards.
That's
I don't know.
funny. Yeah, I love how they also said that the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency confirmed that they had used it to run code remotely on a Windows 2000 computer. That's like the least
Whoa.
I've ever heard. Like, it's like
Somebody was giving malware tech shit about his POC being on like Windows 7, I think, and somebody had said in the thread that the code was very similar. It didn't matter. I don't know how true that is. I didn't look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so terrible at Windows exploitation stuff, judging by my OSCP record. So I do not know anything about how it actually works. I would love to know, but that's for another day.
But if any of you viewers out there have a working Windows 10 Bluekey proof of concept, send it over.
Yeah, disclosure at ThugCrowd.com.
Yeah, you'll get a CLSSP.
Yeah, send us your smart TV ransomware. That's really what I care about.
Sharing is caring.
Absolutely.
100%.
So the next story we have here, shout outs to people who are legally not able to be on the show anymore. The creator of Pokemon Go is suing an association of hackers that it says helps players cheat at its games. So I guess Niantic is trying to sue the people who developed like some cheat apps that bypass some of the controls in Pokemon Go and other products that Niantic makes ahead of their Harry Potter app launch. And it's I don't know, it's like really weirdly dystopian because I mean, think about the amount of bugs that were in Pokemon Red and Blue and the amount of cheats that were just freely distributed, and now people make cheats of things and they get sued. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like intellectual property stuff, but it seems that they're really more cracking down on like cheating.
Well, there was also I also know somebody disclosed a bug in Pokemon Go where certain items were the amount of the item you had were stored locally, so you could just lock that memory and then away you go. You just keep using the item repeatedly forever.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff too. There was also one where you could like someone made a map and it would just tell you where every single Pokemon was or whatever, so you could actually then go spoof your GPS to that specific location or where you found whatever. That got changed.
But they were accepting disclosure, so like they weren't not open to this, but also I guess the motivation of the people making these apps is they want to cheat, they want to win, and they don't want to play.
Yeah, I mean it's also like just a challenge too because it says right on the download screen you're not allowed to reverse engineer the app. So when you say that very prominently,
I dare you.
It's like it's more like a challenge than anything.
I think the biggest thing about this is though that the Harry Potter game hadn't launched yet, so they were working on it pre-launch, which makes people very mad.
Pre-crime.
Pre-crime.
Well,
Yeah.
how do you question how similar the code bases are? Like it's
Definitely.
probably exactly the same.
It's definitely their engine that they're trying to protect.
Yeah, but how do they, do they find the servers? Like, what was the asset discovery process of this new game?
I think it's in beta.
Yeah, they're most likely just.
There was a beta available.
That's what I read.
It was available in Australia and New Zealand much before it came to North America. They probably had a very similar launch process.
Right.
Yeah.
That's still interesting.
I mean, you mentioned like hacking the old Pokemon games. I think it's clear that this is like a global game with like microtransactions, right? There's like money involved here in like a global MMO game. So.
Well,
also,
I mean, it makes sense why they would want to protect it. It's just like, to me, the fun of video games is the reason why I got into like hacking is because of being able to discover cheats and stuff and playing around and breaking things and like being like making your game unplayably glitched.
I guess
I don't know. That kind of stuff it takes the wonder out of it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think they are not going here after somebody who made some hacks and had fun with that, but going after a group that is commercially, I believe, like selling or just giving out these. I believe they were selling it, like customized apps for cheating and stuff like this. This has like nothing to do with people like you going into the details, figuring it out, maybe sharing it with friends and stuff. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely two sides to it, and it's for me though. I'm just like, let's let the people play. But then at the same time, we said this last week. Everything just gets ruined by people just trying to monetize cool stuff instead of just playing with it and sharing it with people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, money always ruins it. That's when you turn it from fun into an actual problem.
If you were interested in game hacking and you wanted to do some game hacking that was in a nice little environment set up for you to do, Ghost in the Shellcode ran Pony Island 3, which was I think it was a Unity MMO that you can download the client, and you're supposed to hack to get past certain basically. It was part of the CTF.
Actually, I think if I recall correctly, there's this one guy on YouTube who did a small series on Pony Island. Can't remember the name though. Sounds familiar though.
Yeah. Also, it's worth noting that lawsuits like this aren't unprecedented. There was Blizzard sued WoW Glider, or all these different World of Warcraft bot companies before. So it's like, and they won, of course. So
yeah,
I mean, besides just throwing around your legal weight to like cripple a small company, like it's there's some legal precedent there for this kind of stuff to happen.
Well, they were selling those cheats as well. So the guys that Blizzard sued, that DEFCON 7, I don't know, it was a long time ago. 17, maybe 21, or I don't know.
I was just reminded of the person who asked us to make them cheats for Final Fantasy.
Oh my god! Can we? So we. I'm gonna go there real quick because that was hilarious. Somebody came into the old ThugCrowd Discord, a stranger, and was basically trying to say, "Hey, can somebody help me write cheats? It's only just a thing that I want to make for myself." And then like, that's a bad idea. They're like, no, it's just for like Final Fantasy Online. We're like, Square Enix sue people. Like, that's a terrible idea. It's not going to end up well for you. They ended up getting banned just because it was a terrible idea. They kept pushing. And then they came back later and were like, hey, somebody ransom me, please help.
They're like, I was looking for links on the dark web forum and somebody ransomed me and they took all my money.
Like, yeah, it was like, well, we told you it was a terrible idea. Nothing good was ever going to come from that idea. You're not going to help yourself. You're not helping anyone.
Yeah, we also tried to tell him, like, yo, like, learn C++, like, learn reverse engineering, like, learn stuff. He's like, if it's just for me, if it's just for you and you're somebody who's interested in this stuff, definitely learn it. There's lots of awesome resources for it. But if you're just trying to be like a criminal and trying to like read from people that actually care about the stuff, yeah, it's bad look.
Just straight up getting ransomed. And then coming back, please help.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, the next story that we have in here, it's pretty cool. So Target had a big outage this weekend, and it was interesting because when someone had said that it was 5 years to the day that they had a register outage, it feels and smells like a cert issue, and I don't think there's anything about that being publicly stated by. I mean, I don't think Target would be like, oh yeah, we had a certificate issue. Like, it's not something that like a regular consumer would care about. But that seems like something that would happen. That's happened to me before, where things just stopped working because a cert somewhere expired. I mean, yeah, it took out.
That's what cron jobs are for. Like, have you heard of Let's Encrypt? I don't know. It works.
But yeah, it took out card payments though for about 90 minutes, which is pretty significant. I mean, for the entire chain to not have card payments for 90 minutes. That's an incredible loss of money, especially on the weekend.
Some of the things though that I've seen in payment networks, there was a client certificate on like to the payment gateway. So if the client certificate had expired, then that's a little bit harder to replace than managing your own infrastructure's service certificates. It's easier to track. It's sort of up to whoever I don't know if that's what it is, but there's some complexities that maybe we don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that's a bad luck. I mean, just having all of your payments just out, that sucks. You just have to like put everything back or pay
Yeah.
cash, have somehow
Like,
cash.
per minute, I'm sure there's a value on this. Like I'm sure there's like business analysts who are like, for every 12 seconds that this was down, we exponentially lost this much money. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
there's like
absolutely.
some crazy algorithm that they would have put a dollar figure on.
I've seen people do that kind of math, and I can only hope that I'll eventually be that smart.
It's just an Excel spreadsheet somewhere. Some poor person. Maintain.
When you say Excel, literally Excel.
Excel. Shout outs to Excel. So the next one here, actually, DNT, you brought this one up. This was about digital driver's licenses that are being rolled out in New South Wales.
Yeah, so this is I haven't seen any of this right up until I saw that like there was a beta program that you could enroll in. I didn't even know this was going on, but you can have a digital driver's license on your phone, and then you have to have a physical driver's license as well. But you don't need to present. But you do need so if you go into state or you go overseas, whatever you obviously need your regular driver's license. But if you get pulled over, I believe you only need the digital one. Now, I don't know about you guys, but making apps is pretty easy, and reversing Android apps is also fairly easy. So I can only imagine that somebody who was a sophisticated and or maybe not even that sophisticated, someone who was dedicated enough could potentially figure out how to make a license that may appear to be someone else. I don't know, because I think so. There was a QR code in some of the in some of the photos of them that I saw. So I assume that the idea is you get pulled over and a cop sort of scans it and it makes a call somewhere, which means that there's going to be a callback, somewhere on a network somewhere as well, to actually look up someone's identity and confirm who they are. So still comparing a photo, still looking at that person.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a real fun new endpoint somewhere?
There's a real fun new endpoint somewhere, and there's a very nice Android app that people can probably look.
This reminds me of something actually. liveoverflow, you might know about this, or I'm sure you do, about the German EID system that it had. You like tack on like another request to like change identity stuff about yourself.
Yeah, we have like so. I also don't really know exactly how the system works, but I have just recently actually met somebody who has been involved with like building that, and he was explaining to me that you can basically create like temporary pseudonyms to identify yourself with a certain application, and then it basically works that way that the application is certified to only ask, for example, about your age, and that will be then cryptographically all ensured that only your ID will only respond with only your age to verify that you are that age, but nothing else about you. And on top of that, you have this temporary pseudonym that even if two different services would get their database breached, they would not be able to correlate because you would have totally different IDs for both these services, even though you use the same card. How exactly that protocol works, I have no clue, but in theory, seems pretty cool.
I remember seeing a PSC of somebody had basically like it would sign the request, but so it would send a signed request, but the initial request you could basically just like do an and blah 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 equals, and it would only look at like the last parameter. So you could like have the first parameter be validated at some point, and then the next step you're basically just tacking on another piece of data onto it, and that would be what was actually sent and signed.
That's funny, like overriding the first key. Like that's it's pretty like I think it's super scary though. Like I feel like having a license in my wallet, even though you can fake a license, you can buy fake ones on the whatever darknet market you like, or you can buy them from like the guy on the corner or whatever, you know what I mean? But I feel like that's something you need. If you want that's mine, you need to take it from me, or you need to take it from somewhere. Whereas all of a sudden you put it on someone's phone, and now you're like, Oh, sweet. So where's the SQL DB that holds their crypto keys?
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, one thing I was wondering about or worrying about is like everything might be fine, but the government still controls, like there's a central server where all these requests kind of have to go through to validate your ID, right? The government could take your ID away, you could move out of the country and stuff like that. So there must be the ability for the government to revoke your ID, how exactly in the same way your passport could be revoked. So if you do shit and they revoke your ID, you lose access to all your online accounts and all that stuff. So I feel like even if they couldn't, like even if this is all cryptographically fine, still the ability to revoke your life, basically, you can't do anything anymore. Also in the digital world seems like a lot of power and trust you have to put into that.
I think as well, there's also the case of where I believe it can show if you have outstanding fines. I think I read somewhere. So I guess if somebody was to, just add something onto that, or to remove something from that, I don't know. I don't know. Imagine you had a warrant. I don't know. I don't have a warrant, but if you had a warrant, and does that come up when the cop scans it, and only the cop sees it? Like it's not on your app. It's on he hits a different endpoint. I would imagine. I would hope. I really hope. Yeah.
Happens when you have a register outage, but for identities. Well, I have no idea who you are, but that looks like a picture of you. Free to go.
One time I was a day after my birthday, and I just didn't renew my license. It was a day after my birthday, and my license had expired on my birthday. And I went to a place where I had to do a wine tasting, or I wanted to do a wine tasting. I guess there was like free wine, and I was just like, I don't even like really drink, so I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll try this wine. And I pulled out my license, and they just didn't give it to me, even though I was like way over 21. I was just like, that's what reminded me of if you're like some glitch happens, and you're like, clearly it's me, like, but for some reason you can't process this, so I can't like do a function of my life.
Or you're doing like 120 in like a school zone, and the cop pulls you over. He's like, "I can't give you a ticket today."
Like, I can't so, I guess you're free to go. Absolutely. The next thing we have on here, Telegram blaming China for doing a DDoS attack on them during the Hong Kong protest, which I totally believe because it's something we kind of do. But did you see those protests? Those were insane. There were so many people on the streets in Hong Kong. And
am I wrong to hear that they were using live ammunition in some places?
Yeah, I mean, there's
what?
There was a lot
like,
of.
I don't think they shot anyone or anything, but I heard that they weren't using non-lethal everywhere.
That's crowd control.
I mean, it's definitely a scary situation, and the fact that a government would just like, instead of like doing anything else, just DDoSing. Like they do so many other crazy things, and that's what they resorted to, I guess, to take out Telegram.
Yeah. I hope that I just imagine like some government official in China buying credits from like dankstressor.com.
You get it done.
They're like they have to promote it on Discord too, so they're just sign up for this, I guess. They post it in 10 Discords.
Shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's definitely an interesting like tool, I guess, for this, because I mean, this is a local problem. This isn't something that is outside of China.
When protests happen inside of certain countries, the government often shuts down the internet to prevent the protesters from communicating. Now in Hong Kong, now it's a different case. It's like kind of an outside state wants to disrupt the communication inside of it for those reasons. So the only chance they have is, I guess, the DDoS. But in the effect is supposed to achieve the same thing as other states have done, just with their local internet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, because it's interesting. Because I mean, I've been to Hong Kong and they don't have the same like restrictions at all for internet. Like I could go on, and I mean, I didn't really go on the internet that much there because it was spooky. But
it's like American China.
It's definitely like
American China.
I mean, that's what it was created to be, basically. Yeah, and now China's trying to take it back, and that's the whole thing they're protesting.
Yeah.
I find the DDoS is like pretty again, as we've said a million times, it's not really that effective. There's got to be some better, surely of all of China's APT powers, and specifically Telegram is not small. I'm sure they're aware what Telegram is and where it runs from. Like they would have had something else lined up in case of emergency break glass kind of deal.
But would it be worth burning it over this?
I don't know. That's up to China to decide, right?
I guess, yeah.
Someone in the chat said Telegram should have used $VPN Club.
Shout out to Dollar VPN Club. Thanks for
What up,
sponsoring every single action that we take on the internet, including private chats. They take responsibility for it. So our tweets are representative of our sponsor.
I sleep at ease knowing that Dollar VPN Club doesn't log any of my porn traffic.
They don't like anything. They don't know what anything is. They don't know. They don't even know if you're on the VPN or not. They just
Isn't it like boot from CD direct to memory? Like
Yep.
the CD crypts, all the servers. CD
yeah.
crypts the memory.
Actually it's a small ROM similar to like a BIOS chip, and then you put that on your motherboard. And that's how you load the Dollar VPN Club client. So you have to just install it. It's basically like a PCIe card that you can just plug in.
It's actually a bootkit, so
Yeah. It actually writes your bootloader, and it helps you. Yeah. They have some cool products coming out for their XSS sales, the exciting summer specials. So take a look at that in the next couple weeks.
Yep. World's first Ring Zero VPN.
Yes. Which number are we on here? Yeah. The next story we have on here is about millions of Venmo transactions scraped and a warning over privacy settings. So, yeah, people have been scraping Venmo for a while. And actually, I didn't get to see this talk at Layer 8, but there was a talk about an OSINT tool using Venmo. And people have done a bunch of different projects with the public data from it. But yeah, basically, so if you aren't familiar with Venmo, it's a payment thing. I think it's sponsored by PayPal now or bought by PayPal. Where you can just send money back and forth between people pretty quickly and easily. But the default setting for transactions between two people, if you're doing any kind of transaction at all, it's set to public. So that means that anybody can see your transaction and anybody can search for transaction words or words you might put in the transaction name. So people will put for sushi or whatever. People also put for that lien that I bought or for whatever weird ransom I paid. That's all public data for the most part, unless you explicitly set it to private. And so people have been criticizing the company, saying you should make this private because there's no reason for people to. It's not like a blockchain. There's no reason to have a public ledger for payment.
I cannot comprehend how developers must have sat in a meeting room and decided that they make something like that public. This is absolutely baffling.
Also, in the chat, vicemo.com, which I guess now that it seems like they changed some stuff around, so there's not as many. But it used to just constantly scroll, anytime someone would put drugs or anything in their description for their payment.
Yeah.
There's still some on.
The article references Johnny Christmas shout out that says that they restricted the API to historical data mostly. So what historical data can be collected. So I guess they kind of listened, but not really. They didn't get it, they were told by this researcher who is has a name, that's you listen to this guy. Hey, they're like, oh yeah, we're listening, and then they half do it. And yeah, good enough. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
But definitely when you have to fill the field out when you send money to people, just regular bank transfers. Do you guys ever put weird stuff in there?
All the time. Nothing but.
The only thing that I put in there.
Sex toys or something.
VPN Club in the chat. Buying illegal shit with Venmo. Should have used VPN Club.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I feel like a lot of that stuff is, I see a lot of really funny stuff in there. So I do think it's funny when people that I know who are using Venmo are typing out weird stuff. But yeah, I keep on
The
mine
weirdest
private.
thing they can think of.
Unless it's like really funny. But other than that, it's a great OSINT tool and can be used against you. So yeah, we're gonna do a break in a second. I guess we can do this story real quick if you want to. Actually, Shell, you're the one who shared this. Do you have anything to say about this Firefox Ode?
I mean, it's pretty wild. You don't see this kind of stuff come up too often. There's just issues with JavaScript objects due to, or type confusion vulnerability can occur when manipulating JavaScript objects due to issues in array.pop.
Oh, so a type confusion error in JavaScript. Who would have thought
Did you say types in JavaScript? What? So I guess is this like so you pop something off you pop something off and it's just like it gets recast or something? Is that the idea?
I have actually no idea, but it's comes from Project Zero and the Coinbase security team.
Cool.
But yeah,
I guess it's somewhere in SpiderMonkey. Are they still using SpiderMonkey or Firefox? Or am I an old man?
I have no idea.
No.
I just saw this and quickly read through it. And I was like, this is actually a really, really neat thing, especially when you hear that it's been exploited in the wild.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exploiting like a lot of this stuff getting exploited in the wild is literally wild. So, super theoretical, and then if someone like saving it for Pwn to own or whatever gets some money, and then someone's out there just like, nah, just use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, so it's about halfway through the show. We should take a little break here for about 5 minutes or so. Get some water, and we'll come back and chat with liveoverflow about everything he does. And yeah.
Hell yeah.
Music here real quick, and I'll mute us so we don't start saying bad things.
Crime.
Crime. I love crime.
Okay. Yeah, see you in a few minutes.
Whoop, we're back. Oh, there's those classic monitor speakers. Hello. Hi.
Been so long.
Oh yeah. So thanks everybody for sticking through the break here. We are back, and we're here with liveoverflow again. In here, but thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So yeah, I guess we can just get right into it. Do you want to introduce yourself, the viewers at home?
Sure. I go by liveoverflow on Twitter. Not the best name to have chosen to be called like that. I make YouTube videos. Mostly that's what I'm, I guess, known for. Professionally, I'm a freelancer and do like application security, web security, source code reviews, and that kind of stuff. Not so much the regular pen testing with like networking, more like the application side. And yeah, that's about it actually.
Awesome. So yeah, I guess we have some standard sort of questions to go through with you, but then we kind of wanted to have more of a free-flowing chat after for anybody who's around. So we're actually streaming on both the Live Overflow Twitch channel as well as the Hard Chat Twitch channel. So sure, when you're on, I guess you can ask us questions if you have any questions for us or questions for him. Just throw them in there and we'll be listening in. Shout out to Dollar VPN Club for modding the chat. So yeah, let's get into that. So first question is, what got you interested in computers and security?
That is probably the fault of my dad. He worked at Hewlett Packard and he had always access to like PCs kind of very early on, and brought like home old PCs that were not used at work anymore. And I just love to play with those. I disassembled those. I looked at the PCBs and stuff like this, and that definitely sparked like my interest in computers. Yeah, and then I also wanted to learn like programming and all that stuff. And about like how I got interested in security or hacking, I guess it's just like that. Hacking has been like part of like pop culture. You know, you heard it. It was this cool thing that of people that really understand technology. So I guess I just from that on, I kind of was interested in that. But I also remember my dad giving me the book The Cuckoo's Egg by Cliff Stoll, and I'm sure that must have also had quite some imprint on me. But I always tried to get like into security, but you can imagine you're like a teenager, have no clue, and then you Google on trying how to hack in like the early 2000s, I guess, or something like that. You only found like shit stuff. I never found like the real communities where I could learn something. So it took me until I was at university, when I had like all these years of experience of like programming, that I discovered CTFs, and finally I realized that I could actually get a foot into the world of security. And and CTFs were basically that what then really motivated me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
I mean, that's
That's like a
actually
lot.
interesting. Like, when you started off and you learn a whole bunch of stuff before you stepped into the communities, so that when you came in, you had like a good foundation before which a lot of people try to skip that.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually one of these things that are so curious to me, that I hear it all the time, that people like start in security and or do pen testing and don't know how to program. I guess reality is that works. From my point of view, I cannot comprehend how that would be a thing. Like I feel like, but I guess I'm biased just based on my past, that I feel like I must know all these things to be able to even understand a little bit. But yeah, that has always been something I found curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel.
Oh, absolutely. Oh goodness, my mouse is so touchy. Yeah, no, that's like such a good point. Like, people have talked about that a bunch, because there's like people have said that you can't do like hacking, you can't do like penetration testing or any security stuff without knowing how to code. And it's like some people do make arguments that you can't. But at the same time, I'm like unable to comprehend that either. I have to learn how to like write something, I guess, to understand how it works. But some people are visual, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
It
there's a
kind of
lot
depends.
outside of hacking that isn't necessarily programming, but it's more like logical, and so that might be an advantage for some people.
I mean, some people are ops people, like if what you know is how to like deal with networks and you never have to code anything, like it's a wide field.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's probably the thing. It's a wide field, yeah.
If you're a wizard at like Cisco and networking and routing, and you can secure a network through different routing rules, that's just as much security as finding a kernel exploit. Just same means or different means to the same end, I guess, of just keeping things safe. But yeah, so definitely wanted to ask you, how long have you been making videos? Because I found out about your videos like a few years ago. I thought they were awesome and watched a bunch of them. and kept up with a bunch of your work. But how long have you actually been doing this for?
The security videos specifically, or just like actual videos in general?
Both, I guess.
Mm, so I think I always had like a inclination, or like I have been like making videos on and off just like through my whole life, so I feel like that kind of led me to making then videos now. I never realized that really about myself, but looking back, I realized that in various stages of my life I had encounters with creating videos. And so as a child I had like my dad's camcorder, and I was like making Lego stop motion movies. Um, and then
Oh yeah.
and then some of you might have seen like my April Fool's video, where I do like tricks with like pens, like literally pens, and I was making like a joke about pen testing, but it's actually like pen spinning, doing tricks with pens. And so that was like something I did in my teenage years, and this is where I actually learned editing, because we would record ourselves doing like tricks with these pens and editing it to to music and stuff like this. So that was like my teenage years with video stuff. And then actually I thought, also remembered that I was doing like basics of like computer tutorial videos already, only like 3 or so. There was like a Google Code Jam, which is like a Google programming competition for computer science students. And I remember doing like 2 like write-up videos of that. I just recently remembered that. And I also remember playing Guild Wars 2, and they have like it's a online game, and they have like an API with just some JSON data, and so I was making like a basic programming tutorial video on how to interact with such an API. So somehow I have been doing videos throughout my life and never really considered myself like a video maker or something. But starting the security videos, that basically started in like early 2015. So I guess almost 4 years now ago. And I actually started with live streaming and not with making videos. That's why it's also Live Overflow. I was interested in that because I watched GeoHot. GeoHot a little bit before that was doing sometimes like live CTFs. He was streaming himself solving challenges. And at that time, I was kind of hitting a wall when it came to security. I just couldn't really progress. All the stuff was so complicated, and seeing him, how he's interacting with the terminal and the kinds of script he's writing, and just that, like being able to look over the shoulder of somebody who is like a lot more experienced than you is so valuable. And that like really like blew me away, and that motivated me then to also get started myself. Basically I was frustrated that he wasn't doing more, or other people wouldn't do more, and I thought to myself, at least I'm not on their level, but I can maybe help people that are still even more beginners than I am to get to my level faster if I stream that content.
So one of the videos I liked was how to ask a question. So like I'd like to know how to do this XSS.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's my whole question. That's my whole question.
Okay. That was a very good example. That was a very good example of the kinds of questions I sometimes get.
it keeps bug.
Yeah. There's actually
Tell me exactly what to do.
There's one small thing I kind of regret not having included in that video, and that is asking if they can ask a question. Like that starts to drive me insane. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a lot to teach people, and that a part of it is what you had brought up in that video, which is when you're teaching somebody, it's hard for people to come to know what they even want to ask, and it's like between that and people just not knowing how to even really talk to people in general, it's just both of those things compound get really difficult for some people to even just break in and ask a question about something. And then for the person who's receiving that to get that knowledge, it's frustrating because you're not sure how they'll even process what you're saying, because you assume they don't know anything, or that they whatever. It's just, yeah, there's a lot of miscommunication that can happen in those sort of transactions.
I can certainly relate to that because I know that I've been there and I'm still there actually too. I remember, like I mentioned during the time when I discovered GeoHot's live stream, I was like hitting a wall. Like I knew that I am theoretically able to understand that stuff, and for whatever reason I just couldn't find the proper information to like move forward, and I also struggled to like phrase the right questions just because there's so much unknown. I don't really understand like how to phrase a question. So from that point I can understand it, and I happen to observe that in myself again just recently, or over the past like 1 or 2 years, about like browser exploitation, because that is such a complex and huge topic that felt like theoretically I should be able to understand this if I would dedicate the time, but I don't. It seems such a daunting task that I'm overwhelmed and get frustrated, and so I have these same annoying questions I ask some people I know, like, this is so complicated, I don't know where to start, and those are not questions that people can help you with. These are not precise enough, and so yeah, I can empathize. So I hope that with that video that was a little bit ranty, I could like nudge people to understand, and that's also something I had to like kind of learn again, or make myself aware of again, that I have to take a step back and approach this more slowly and not go all the way at once, and just like try to figure out what are these first small steps that hopefully lead me onto the path where I want to go.
I think I don't know. I guess as well, sometimes if you're not sure of someone's skill level and they want your help, and you obviously want to help them, sometimes I feel like I'm tech-splaining. I don't know if you ever feel that.
That's a huge
Where, like,
struggle for me.
Yeah, you're sort like you're explaining something, and then all of a sudden you're explaining something about TCP, and then the next thing you're breaking it, and then maybe they already know this stuff, maybe they don't, and they don't give you any indication of like, do they know it, or
yeah,
do you want me to shut up now? Or,
I'm really struggling with this, and I don't know where I stand. I flip-flop between those two things because I don't want to appear arrogant, so I don't want to like throw around like be arrogant and assume that the person is below me by starting to explain like very basic stuff, and so I don't want to appear that I think I know everything and you know nothing. And then the other side would be that I assume that you are on my level, and then I would just start speaking jargon, and then actually you don't understand, and that makes you feel dumb and makes me look arrogant. So I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do this with my videos as well, because in a sense it's like the same way where I just present my thoughts and talk to somebody, and I don't really know how to properly have that conversation. Both seems fatal.
It's probably harder with a one-way communication medium like video, but if you're talking to someone in person, you can just straight up ask, like, what is your experience level with like X thing? And usually people will tell you, and you can try to go from there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with your videos, it's going to be harder because it's not one person or one type of person. You have no clue really who's watching.
Yeah, with videos, I can't imagine doing that, but in person, that can be effective.
Yeah, for sure.
So that actually leads into the next question that we had for you, which was, how do you balance or gauge begin to more advanced content when you're making videos? Because you've made videos on, the whole process of like, what are buffer overflows, then start off with the basics of what is assembly, and you go through like the whole chain, and you lead up to way more advanced concepts. But then you make other videos as well that are, sometimes they're gauged towards more beginner audiences, sometimes they're like straight into whatever you're talking about with the jargon. So how do you balance that and when you're making a video to sort of, I guess, get in the mode of explaining it to somebody who's beginner to more advanced?
Yeah, I actually don't really think about it too much because it's basically always constrained by the length that I target for a video, which is like roughly like 10 minutes or so. It's about 3 Google Docs pages that I write for a script, and in recent like times I've been kind of failing this, so it's like 3 to 4 pages. I try to limit myself, which is actually not much when you start like trying to write out what you want to say. And so that limits the size. And then comes the topic that I want to talk about. So maybe it's the CTF challenge that I want to explain, or some other topic I want to explain. But let's say you solve the CTF challenge. And so now I figure out how can I explain the solution to the CTF challenge in that time. And I want to include as much detail as possible, but I'm confined by the length. So if the challenge was a little bit more basic, it allows me to go even deeper and explain more basic stuff. But if the CTF challenge was already something more advanced that requires certain knowledge, then I just don't have the time to explain those details, and so that ends up to be a more advanced topic. And I guess because I keep jumping around between topics, and because sometimes I solve easy challenges, sometimes I solve harder challenges, I guess in the end it balances it somewhat out. But yeah, I'm not actually thinking a lot about balancing. It's actually mostly the time constraint, and I try to explain as much as possible in the time that I'm given, and sometimes it's more basic and sometimes it's more advanced.
That's really cool. That's actually a really good way to think about it. And I think that's probably what a lot of people end up doing, is just you only have a certain amount of time, and yeah, that's sweet. So one of the things that actually, Shell, this is your question. What are some of the most common questions that you get from your viewers?
I was thinking when I got started that the most question I would get would be to be asked to hack their Facebook or hack their Instagram or something like this. And so and other people have told me they get this question, but surprisingly I get this question extremely rarely. Maybe every other few months or so. Like once in a blue moon on Twitter or on email I get this question, but basically never. It's actually ridiculous how little I get this, which is really surprising to me. And the question I get the most actually is what kind of books I would recommend, followed by kind of how to get started. Yeah.
So do you have any go-to resources for those kinds of questions? Like if somebody asks you how to get started or what sort of books do you recommend, how do you approach that?
So that's why I made like a couple, or I have like 2 videos of mine that I made to kind of answer this question. So one of the videos is how to get the secret step-by-step guide to learn hacking, which I deliberately made a little bit more clickbaity, try to capture exactly these people, where I basically explain that it's difficult or impossible for me to tell you how to start, because it totally depends on your background and what you're interested in, and I haven't reviewed all the available resources, so I don't know which ones were efficient. I only know the resources I learned with, and they were frustrating and stuff like this, so I'm sure there are better ones out there. So basically, I sent them these videos to explain kind of like the issue I have with recommendation. I also can't recommend any books because I've never actually learned or studied with books. I'm terrible at reading books. That's kind of something that annoys me myself. So yeah, I tend to send them this sometimes, depending on how much I have time and how much I'm in the mood or whatever, or maybe the person even included something about themselves. I might like ask back like what the background is or what they kind of want to learn. And otherwise I just refer to that video that I made and maybe even point them to something like Pico CTF, or tell them that I have made this series on the basics of like binary exploitation, that they can follow along and do it themselves, like these challenges themselves, try them themselves, stuff like this. But yeah, I don't have like a go-to satisfactory answer, and kind of changes over time and depends on my mood if I'm willing to talk to this person or not.
Absolutely. So speaking of mood though, one of the other things I wanted to ask was, what are some of your pet peeves about being a technical content creator? I know that a lot of people just sort of expect content creators on, say, YouTube to just pump out whatever content or answer their questions or be present or whatever. I guess, do you have any sort of things that get on your nerves about doing this kind of stuff?
Actually, not really. So far, my experience as a content creator has been surprisingly positive. I started doing this completely anonymously because I thought I would receive a lot more stuff that I would struggle with, but has been surprisingly fine and nothing really that annoys me a lot. I guess what annoys me a lot is just these questions about can I ask a question, what I just mentioned before. If they ask if they can ask a question, it's just annoying. Also, sometimes like I said, I started anonymously because as a kind of a self-protection mechanism, because I think I'm a fairly emotional person, and I probably don't do well with a lot of like hate comments and stuff like that, but I don't get these at all. And so the very, very few I get, I actually can brush off, but that's something I would have worried about, but it hasn't turned out not to be an issue. Yeah, I don't know, pet peeves as a content creator.
Yeah, no, that's totally a valid point, though.
Yeah.
I think that's something that makes people really scared to put stuff out there. It's for any field really, but especially technical stuff where there's always just like that meme of the guy with the actually, and then just have like little tiny glasses and they're balding, just sitting in their mom's basement or something. It's like that kind of thing that like just makes you not want to do anything.
That's a good point with the well actually. So my most successful video, and that kind of like my viral video, it has over 3 million views. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it is about this Raspberry Pi that a student found in like a college library. It was just plugged in there in the wall, and he found multiples of these and was wondering what it does. And I contacted him and helped him like look at this. And basically in that video, I'm describing this process of trying to help him figure it out. And I was just telling the story. And, there were a lot of limitations that we had. Like this student only had a Windows laptop. He didn't have an SD card. No, he had an SD card reader built into the laptop. And he didn't have a Linux machine. He didn't have an extra monitor to plug into that Raspberry Pi. He like all these limitations that we had. And so I was on a Skype call with him, and I needed to figure out what is the most efficient way to somehow get that Linux image to me over the internet, because he sits on the other side of the world. And so I had to play around with all these limitations, and installing a Linux machine is actually something we did, and we didn't include in the video because that was a dead end, because his SD card reader, for example, was like a built-in one and it wasn't exposed via the USB bus. He couldn't attach that to the VM, so that it wasn't the SD card wasn't readable from the VM. So basically in the end I tried to download a tool that would allow us to create an image of that SD card with Windows. And so we Googled and found like a tool, and it didn't like work, and we tried to read the file system, it didn't work. And anyway, long story short, I tried to explain this whole story. And then in the end, I get comments as like, why didn't you just use Linux? Why didn't you just plug in a monitor? And people like we just tried to download a single tool to image the SD card, which is so much easier to install Linux, set this up on this person's single machine, then somehow get Skype working again with screen sharing, that we can set it up and have a call and then walk him through. Like that is such a larger task than just trying to find a Windows tool to get an image of the SD card. Like this is what goes into this well actually, like people suggesting something that is just doesn't make any sense in that context, and kind of misunderstanding that I'm telling here a story that had limitations, and obviously it's not the perfect path that it could have been, but that's just telling the story how it was. Yeah. Oh my gosh, sorry.
That's absolutely like people. That's just a common thread through a lot of things. People not understanding or appreciating the process and the effort that you go through to make this kind of stuff. Because the kind of videos that you do, especially like they have a lot of diagrams and animations and things, and those take time to like one think of and then create and then put into something that actually makes sense. And so yeah, it's definitely a huge thing for people to remember when they're watching people create anything on the internet, is that it takes a lot of time and effort, and there's a lot of things that you might not know about that go into putting things on the screen for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I guess that goes also in the pet peeve stuff, assume that like making videos is easy and quick. And that's, I have done like a live stream once where I've made like a CTF video right up from start to finish. And that live stream was like 14 hours long. So that's roughly how much it took me to like prepare and edit and create that video, ignoring even the time that went into like playing the CTF and stuff in the first place. So this is like massive amount of hours for a video basically that I release every week that people might not be realizing that it takes. And so that goes even a step further, thinking about like these stupid let's players on YouTube or stupid vloggers that have it so easy, but actually all this editing and all this collection of footage and all this stuff costs so much time. And so I guess that is my pet peeves about content creation, that people assume that it's easy and quick, and in reality, like, we are there like working our ass off, not having weekends just to prepare these things to release them. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think it's great that we're able to discuss this too, because a lot of people just do not get to understand, what actually goes into it. So thank you for explaining.
Whoa! Big shout outs to all the gift subs that just came through. Thank you very
what
much.
the hell?
Yep, thanks, RXID.
Yeah, RXID. Someone just gifted subs to like everybody in the chat. That's cool stuff. Oh yeah, thanks, dude. So talking on all of what you have said so far, are there any things that you'd like to see people doing in this sort of space of making educational content on YouTube? Like, what are some things that you'd like people to do that maybe you don't have the time or energy or necessarily know how to do?
First of all, I don't have any I have obviously some wishes of stuff that I would like to watch myself, but generally I just would like to see more of it and more variety of it. Just like that's also a reason why I did that live stream and why I've shared like my making of how I make these videos, in the hope that it kind of helps kickstart somebody else's creation process. Because I understand that many people might not like the video on YouTube stuff, but I personally feel like there's a lot of a potential there, and I want to watch more videos. So I just wish there were more people making videos. And in terms of like what I would like to see, there are various kinds of things. Like, I'm a very curious person, so I'm especially interested in any professional just sharing stuff that is related to their work. May it even just be like a network engineer, or like, for example, I have never done ops, as mentioned like earlier, these kind of jobs like operations security, or like, looking at like the network traffic and incidents that are going on. Maybe there's a company out there that is a bit more open with their work and would allow an engineer to kind of like share that process in these videos as well. Like, things like that I would love. I would love more security researchers like recording and sharing their process. Like Murmus is doing that a lot. I've talked to a lot of like security researchers that would kind of like to do it, but they just don't have the time, because the security research already takes so much time. And once they start recording, they realize like how much work it actually is. But I would hopefully encourage and would hope that more just professionals just share their work in video form, or any form for that matter. If it's easier for you for a blog post, I take a blog post too, but I would like to see just more videos.
I think we should probably mention before all the junior developers start streaming is be aware of what you're streaming. I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, don't be streaming your production keys.
Maybe that's why you should do videos and not streaming, so that you can make sure to edit it out.
Yeah,
definitely. There's actually a time from our crew had found somebody who was Twitch streaming, and they had just like for like 1 second accidentally had like their like root DB creds, and then they're able to like access their stuff.
Yep.
So they ended up reporting it on there, and the guy stopped the stream and came into our Discord, and we like walked him through like what to do next. But it was that kind of stuff happens, so definitely be aware.
Yeah, I would be way too paranoid to stream anything work related. That's why I would encourage videos. And even with videos, like I said, I tried to be anonymous at the start, and I fucked up many times. That taught me to be never trying to be anonymous again. I had so many mistakes. It was so easy to like dox me and stuff. So many mistakes.
So one of the things during our 24-hour live stream, when we were all hanging on different CTFs and challenges and things like that, what a lot of people did was actually set up a VM just for that task. So we set up an Arch VM, like Black Arch VMs, Ubuntu VMs, whatever you're using, and people were just capturing that window. So if you want to do it, that's the way you can do it, without having, accidentally alt tabbing to, your real Firefox logged in with your actual Gmail.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But yeah, you can save yourself that potential by taking a few steps and thinking about it.
That's, for example, something that I have a problem with. So when I play CTFs, I obviously play that like on my machine where I'm logged into like the different, chat applications to share stuff with people. I have my email open. It's just like my machine, right? And so if I would record that and would try to make a video out of it, it would be so tedious to edit all that stuff out. That's why for my videos, I actually reenact basically everything I did to like properly size the windows, make sure they are clean, make sure there's nothing on it, and then I record that section for the video and stuff like this, because it's my footage of recording myself playing CTF is unusable with the private. Like I'm messaging like my girlfriend or my friend, or like stuff is happening, unusable. Yeah.
That's a lot of work, man. That's a lot of effort to go through and just recreate everything you did.
And on top of that, I don't want to say, I'm not sure how much time it takes, but the drawn annotations you do for your videos, I think those are a great addition, but I'm sure that takes forever.
So I have found a very efficient way, I think, how to do this. Like the reason why they look how they look, it has become like a kind of almost like a brand identity of liveoverflow, but it has been created basically accidentally because it's the fastest thing I could figure out to do this, because I wanted annotation on the screen. I felt like there was too much information on the screen to just show that. I needed something to point or to like make a box around it and stuff like this. And my initial process was that I would always, like, if I have a screen of my video showing, I would take a screenshot, paste that into Photoshop, draw something over it, or draw like a rectangle over it, and then export just that transparent layer as a file, and then pull that file again into the video. And that was quite tedious. And those are my early videos, until I figured out that you can do video editing in Photoshop. So now I just edit it once, like stitch everything together, zoom in and prepare everything like that first, render that, and then I take that whole video into Photoshop. And in Photoshop, it's actually very easy to then create layers and just draw over them. You can't really do animations and all that kind of fancy stuff, but you can do like these still overlay layers just over the video, and then you can draw on this. And that process gets fairly quick. I mean, it still takes like time, it still kills like another 2 hours or so, but compared to having to do this animation in like After Effects or whatever professional tool that would be, this has been pretty fast. So feel free to use that method if that means you can make better videos.
That definitely sounds better than opening Notepad and typing in there and then backspacing 5 times and typing it again. Like,
but that's classic. That's
much
classic.
better content. Yeah, that's stylized now.
Yeah.
This should Hypercam too. So yeah, I guess want to just talk a little bit about any projects that you're working on right now?
So right now I'm on YouTube. I'm in the process of releasing this browser exploitation series, which is obviously, I'm not an expert. I also like started to learn about it by trying to walk through one example exploit. So we are on like, I think episode 4 or so, and there will be a couple of more episodes trying to walk through all the technical details and to be able to understand that one particular exploit. So that's one thing that I'm basically working on. And then I started like streaming last week, and we are building this 8-bit computer by Ben Eder. So it's not security related, but it's about like understanding how a computer works on a more electronics level. I'm an amateur in electronics, so I use this also to learn more about it myself. That kind of is also a core principle of myself. I strongly believe that I'm better at my job the more I understand about the whole computer world, everything technology related, even if it's not like electronics is not something I do professionally, but I feel like through that I understand computers a bit better. That allows me just to do my work better. I don't know. That's something I believe in. Yeah, so we are building that. It's not security related, but we might chat a lot about security as well. Those are the 2 projects that are going on right now. Oh, and I'm working on my master thesis. I'm trying to finish my master's degree. That's another whole drama.
Good luck with that.
You know,
I guess we'll ask you in like 6 months to a year's time, like, so what are you working on? You'll be like, my master's thesis, you know?
yeah. No, I have an actual deadline. It's at the end of October, so ask me. Either I handed that in or I dropped out. So we will see.
Well, good luck. Good luck with that.
And of course, that's also why I started streaming and building that 8-bit computer, because when is the best time to start a new project?
Right? Exactly. Oh, we gotta build this computer from scratch. Hold on. So Subnet in the chat, which thanks to Subnet and RxID for gifting all those subscriptions. I think there were 11 or 12 given away just now to everybody in chat. Subnet asks, is Live Overflow going to be at the DEF CON CTF again this year?
Most likely not. I have no plan so far to go. My excuse is that I'm working on my master's thesis and can't afford to travel, and I probably shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't build this computer instead and go to DEF CON, I guess, but it is what it is now.
I think you'll probably learn more from building the computer than going to like every talk at DEF CON. I don't know. I mean, that's made to me.
Well, I wouldn't go to any talks at DEF CON anyway, because I would just sit in the hotel room playing the CTF. Yeah, last year I didn't see anything of DEF CON. I literally just walked from the hotel room up the elevator, up the escalator to the CTF area and back. That's all I saw.
Yeah, definitely been there before.
Yeah, that sums up the experience. I think your experience sounds like it had a little less vomit.
There was no vomit.
Yeah.
So does anybody else in the chat, in either chat, have questions to ask to Live Overflow while we still have them? One of the things that I wanted to ask you too is, do you have any message for any aspiring hackers that might be listening and watch your show or watch your channel?
Yeah, actually, that's also some advice when people ask me how to get started, or when they appear frustrated when they write me. Generally, what I like to say is that this stuff is complicated and just takes time. There's masses of information, and the key takeaway is, and what you need to prepare yourself for, it just takes time. If you start now, you will not learn this stuff in a couple of days. It will not take weeks. It probably will also not take months. But if you start doing this casually on the side and whatever, I assure you, and I can guarantee you, that in like a couple of years, you are most certainly a well-versed professional. And in a year, you already will be so capable. There's just masses and masses of information that need to be absorbed over time. You can't do that in just a few months. So don't be frustrated when you just got started. It's absolutely normal, and it's all doable, and it's all, in retrospect, easy, but I know that's frustrating, and it just takes time.
That's a really good point about taking time and getting frustrated, because I guess the things you learn at the start might have other things that you need to know later for it to come full circle, and that knowledge stack might take that few months, might take that year plus. I still have times where 5, 10, 15 years later I turn around and go like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah,
keep going.
Absolutely. So Femto Duino asks a really important question here. Live Overflow, have you had to deal with burnout?
No. To be honest, I actually don't really know what the full symptoms of a burnout would be. The thing is, I'm not employed. I don't have to go to an office. I can tell you that I'm extremely tired and stuff, but I don't have a boss. It's all the stress I'm feeling is all basically self-imposed. I have the choice as a freelancer to take on projects or not. I keep taking on projects. I keep taking on more work. I keep putting more work into Live Overflow. Now I started streaming. I have a master thesis to do. I'm loaded with work, and I load more onto myself. But it's all by choice, and I could all drop it anytime. And that's why I think I can keep going. like I haven't had like vacations or weekends basically in years, but I'm also kind of doing everything like by choice in a way. Uh,
So every day is a weekend.
yeah, exactly. That's what it is. And so I feel like if I had like a job where I need to get up every morning and go to and have to get up in the morning, I feel like I would have already failed and I wouldn't be able to do it anymore. But because I just wake up and can work in my PJs or work from bed, I'm just able to keep walking on the hot coals. That's kind of how I feel.
That's an interesting approach, though, for I guess being a freelancer and you saying that you choose to do the things. A lot of people definitely serial overcommitters, doing a lot of things and then feeling bound to them. So
Yeah.
like,
So
Yeah.
so Giles. Yeah, Giles writes something in chat like stress is about no longer in control. And that's how I feel also about it. I feel very stressed. I feel extremely overworked in some way, but it's not, nobody put that work onto me. It's not like that I have a boss or a deadline that is like coming up that I didn't choose for myself and stuff keeps just running away from me that I have no control over. It's all like self-imposed stress. Any week I don't have to upload a YouTube video. I don't have to do this live stream. And in the worst case, I could also drop out of university. I will be fine. I have several years of work experience now. Like I will be fine anyway, right? So it's extremely stressful. I'm extremely busy. I don't have free time. But at the same time, it's again by choice. It's not on stress put onto me. And I think that is a massive difference.
I think a lot of people who want to try and achieve some of the things, learn some of the things, like, their goals are like read this book or get this certificate. They're doing it after work, and a lot of people have kids and other commitments like that, and they find it really hard. But I guess it's all about that management, right? So.
Yeah. So I mean, I also jump between a lot of stuff, and like I have the freedom to work on whatever I want. I pre-produce my live overflow videos, for example, because I couldn't do a day like a weekly schedule. I go through waves. I have weeks where I'm extremely motivated to make videos, and then I have weeks where I either busy or I don't feel motivated to make videos. But I can always consistently release because I then produce like more during those times. That fits well with my freelance work because obviously that's project based. So sometimes I have projects and sometimes I don't, and by being able to kind of like a task schedule, or sometimes I do that task more, sometimes I do another task work, it works fine. But if I would be stuck, or if I would be in like a framework with especially like family, where there are so many external forces, it's your job with times and it's a family that imposes a lot of stuff onto you, then being able to free up the time to follow a certificate I find extremely hard, and like mad respect for anybody that can like stick through that. I actually have no clue how these people do that. Like I cannot imagine myself be able to succeed with that kind of stress.
No, that makes perfect sense. And actually, this is a question that has been brought up in both of our chats now. So where do you find your clients? I'm an aspiring freelancer. Any basic tips for a developer or tech person in the freelance world?
Yeah, to that I always have a very unsatisfying answer. That I'm kind of lucky with the way I'm working. I basically don't work directly for like clients. I work basically through kind of an agency, you can imagine, or like I have like a couple of companies that just need additional help, and so I work for them then for a client project. Never work directly with the client, so a lot of this overhead of like talking to the client, getting those projects, getting those bills paid, doing all that admin stuff falls away. It's literally works this way that this company asked me, hey, we have a project coming up, it's this and that, do you want to do it? And I say yes, and then I get like the scope and all the information, and I get the source code or whatever. I do my stuff, I report, we chat, we interact, and then I hand off the report and say, here are my tickets, done. So, and then I send my invoice, and like all that admin stuff that is annoying in freelancing, I don't have. So I'm extremely lucky with that I have that, and I got that through somebody recommending me to somebody. Just somebody said, hey, this guy has some potential. Maybe you can check it out. And so that's how I got my foot into that door of kind of work gigs. And they are out there, but I have no clue how to find them because I just got lucky that somebody recommended me. I guess networking is the answer to that, how to get that. But it's definitely not something I've ever planned or thought would happen. I was always on like a straight path with university and stuff to just become an employee and probably a developer actually. And if like my gigs, how I get this work would fall away, I actually don't see myself continuing freelancing alone, because that admin overhead and finding these clients and stuff like that seems absolutely extremely stressful and scary to me, that I would probably just become an employee again. So, not great advice there.
No, I mean that's definitely like the reality of it though, and it's important to be realistic, because a lot of people have like the dreams about, you know, being a freelancer, being an infosec, being all these different things, and the, you know, it looks pretty from the outside, but all the times it's definitely a lot to manage. It's a lot of you know, unknowns and a lot of things that you might not expect. And it's definitely good to hear a realistic perspective rather than just just do it. Just drop out of everything and become a freelancer and be your own boss and make $10,000 a day from your pajamas, like a cheap email scam.
Yeah, I guess like my very privileged advice, because you know, like we don't have to pay for university and all that stuff in Germany, so it's like pretty easy to follow like a straight career path. Like my pattern of my, I guess, still young career has always been that I have a straight, clear path. I always know kind of like my next step I was working towards, and at the time it was like just do university and then apply for jobs, and then this opportunity just opened up. I've never planned for it. I never like waited for that to happen or anything. It just happened, and then I just took that step and took that opportunity. And so my advice would be, make sure that you have like a plan that works out. It's maybe not ideal, but make sure that you are fine with that. And then if some opportunities open up on the side, like take them then. But yeah.
No, that's awesome. Do you have any last words before we get going?
Any last words?
I guess if we have the time, I would be curious, like what is the kind of content on videos you would like to see, because you have also like kind of different backgrounds, and I'm sure like I'm not covering all the topics that you are interested in. So if you could like imagine like a YouTube front page, and there would be the videos that you want to see, like what would be the video you would like to click on, and what kind of content would that video be? Is that something you can think of something right now? Might also be a blog post or a book maybe on a topic.
Most of what I watch is DEF CON talks and Watch Mojo. So I'm really adding YouTube.
Watch Mojo top 5 DEF CON talks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would love that. I would love some really nicely produced countdown videos with like a very calming voice, just, you know, very assuredly talking about like, we're gonna talk about the top 5 kernel vulns of 2019. Like, I'd love to see
maybe some like ASMR reverse engineering.
Yeah, no, we're talking about ASMR. It's just like it's reading out what you're doing, but it's like, okay, so we're going to analyze the symbols in the offset table.
So in the past days, you know, I've been building this 8-bit computer, and like this sound seems to has some ASMR possibilities, like people like it, and it actually, I don't know, on the recording it also sounds kind of nice. So it's when I clip the wires, and I do this right next to the microphone. So let me clip a wire and tell me if that is like good like electronics ASMR or something.
Okay. Actually, the Ben Eater videos I did fall asleep to for a while. I was watching because there's so many of them. I would put them on and be like, all right, let's just talk about how do you make a 7-segment display decoder for 55 minutes where he explains the entire thing. Just like, all right, and just put me to sleep. That's good content. And I honestly, that's when I really started trying to learn computer stuff for trying to get a job. When I was like trying to get actually serious about this, I just watched YouTube videos like that and like to fall asleep. Just got very obsessed with it. But that kind of stuff, though, like the sort of calming content that's not just hard technical stuff, where it's like more human. That's definitely the stuff that I really like, which is why I've really appreciated your videos.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Okay, careful. Now listen.
Clip the what? Oh, not sure if that was a wire or a toenail.
That kind of sounded like an explosion.
I like it.
About voice, one last thought that I've had. So I'm pretty sure, I'm very convinced that I don't really have like a good like soothing voice or anything like this. It's like, I don't know, like I never really liked my voice on camera or anything. I don't think my voice is particularly like nice to listen to. However, what has shown me that if you have like thousands of people watching your videos, then even your most annoying voice that you don't like, there are people that like it. So if that's a lesson to learn for like insecurities or something, I'm sure there are still people that still like it.
I can definitely agree that I don't know anyone that likes the sound of their own voice. I don't think anybody likes hearing themselves recorded.
Yeah, it's definitely weird.
Yeah, I don't sound like me to me when I hear me. So
yeah, sure. I know I sound differently, but also like my voice is not like like soothing or deep. It doesn't have the bass. Like. What makes up like if you think of like what is a nice soothing voice to listen to, that's not my voice. Yeah.
What was that?
I don't think that was me.
Someone's phone. An important phone call.
But hey, it's time to get going. So thanks so much, Live Overflow, for joining us here, and thanks everybody who watched on either channel. We do this podcast every week. It's pretty much what you're hearing right now. We kind of just talk about security news, and we interview our favorite hackers and have them tell us their stories and do weird stuff. So yeah, you can follow us on Twitter. We're at ThugCrowd, or follow us on Twitch. We kind of just do this every week, same time. Next week, we're actually going to be talking to Hexadecimate, who has done a really cool project they're going to tell us about. For crowdfunding FOIA requests to get information from the FBI. And so they've gotten quite a bit of information about a ton of different stuff, and it's going to be really cool to hear the whole process of how they actually did it, because they've raised quite a lot of money and have got a significant amount of stuff that would have never seen the light of day had they not crowdfunded it. So it's going to be awesome
Very
talk.
cool.
And yeah, so shout out to everybody who watched us. Thanks everybody for gifting subs. Thanks to all of our Patreon people, and thanks to Live Overflow for coming and hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
EXO for the whole time putting ASCII art into one of the chat boxes.
Matrix chat.
Yes. Oh, and also another thing, real quick, our Matrix challenge was retired this weekend, the last one. Thanks to everybody who actually solved it and came in and joined our chats. We will have another one out soon. We have a couple of other challenges we're trying to get together, but we will be releasing that on Twitter. So if you do want to come in and join our weird gang of people just talking on the internet, we'll have a way for you to do that soon. Also, the Blind Hacker has a stream. Is it Saturday?
I think so. I was pasting links to it earlier in chat.
Yes. We'll just retweet what he said, but thanks to the Blind Hacker and everything he does. The Discord invite is invalid. Sudo moves. We don't have a Discord.
Zero Discord now.
Discord's gone, and the Shaolin challenge is now done.
Yep. So someone will probably do a write-up on the challenge that we just had. It didn't get leaked on Reddit finally, which is good. But yeah, good stuff. All right, we will see you all next week. Thanks for hanging out, and good night. Play the music.
Peace.
Bye.
Or
Bye.
Lawyer.
Lawyer.
Oi.
All right, finish off the call. Sorry about that muted mic again. I will go to bed basically now. It's like 5:40 a.m. in the morning. This room is like hot as F. See now the glares here. See how the like sweat is like reflecting because I removed my makeup already. You came at the wrong time. No worries. You can watch the VOD. I was on a podcast. We talked about some news, and then we had a little bit of a Q&A. Collab between liveoverflow and Michael Reeves when liveoverflow hacking into Michael Reeves' Rombus. Okay, actually, there's a funny story about that. So I think Michael Reeves made like this web server at some point where people could like trigger either TTS or just some alarms or something like this, like while he was sleeping. Like there's a video about this out there. I forgot the details of it again, but the web server that he made where people could like type in stuff had command code execution, and so I saw that video, was recommended to me. I watched that and wanted to exploit that like as a joke because I thought it would be funny. But at that time, obviously, so many people had already reported that to him, and he fixed it. And then I did a live stream on YouTube. I think it was like my 100K special or something like that. And Michael Reeves was in the YouTube chat. And at that time, he was like at 300K or something subscribers. So he was like, he just had like a couple of videos out, or I guess already quite some videos out, but he was just shooting up during that time. So that was kind of cool. And yeah, I've written with him a little bit, just a couple of sentences back and forth on Twitter. So, you know, there's a connection there already. So maybe maybe I can leech off him some point. Is that a pen? Yeah, so it's nothing special. It's basically a pencil that is like just blue and red. I can't get the cap off. And then these are metal caps to like protect the tip of your pen when you like pack your pen away, that it doesn't break off. And it's actually imported from Japan. Nothing special. It's actually not a good pen for pen testing. It's too light and yeah, and too thin. Also, the barrel is too thin. But it's the only one I have at hand right now. More beauty tutorials, please. They are coming. They are coming. Don't worry about it. Is that a binary clock? Oh, in case you were not here for the other streams, I'm working on building an 8-bit computer. This is based on Ben Eater's YouTube series on building an 8-bit computer. And so what we have right now here, actually, let me show you. No, wait. So what we have right now here, up here, this is the clock module. So you can see it blinking. You can decide how fast the clock is going for this computer. You can also switch to manual, and so you can manually execute clock cycles. And then these two here are registers. So this is the A register and this is the B register. And between those two, this is the ALU, the arithmetic logic unit. But it can't do much. It can do addition and subtraction. And this is as far as we got. The wires that go over here, this is simulating the shared bus of the different components of the CPU. Looks all fancy, and I spoke in very fancy language, but this is just literally following, like step by step, the YouTube series by Ben Eater. Here, let me share this in chat there. You can find the parts list and also the videos on his website. And yeah, so I've been doing that on stream the past week. And so this is pretty cool because we can learn a bit more about electronics, which I'm an amateur at, and I can learn a bit more about how a CPU works. I have somewhat of an intuition, but there are still a few things, especially like how exactly are instructions implemented in a CPU. That part I'm really looking forward to, because I'm not quite sure. I don't have a good imagination of that. How it's programmed, later there will be dip switches, and you program byte by byte the values into RAM, and then you let the CPU run from RAM. Yeah, so if you are interested in the video series by Ben Eder, it's also an excellent YouTube channel, regardless, it has other videos too, is excellent, and it's shorter. Obviously, if you just are interested in how a CPU works and how you could build an 8-bit CPU, just watch his series, or you can follow me on Twitch, watch the VOD, or follow the liveoverflow 2 YouTube channel, where I'm uploading all the VODs and some highlights from the streams, some silly stuff we are doing, like makeup tutorials. You can find that on liveoverflow 2. Yeah, so we are working on that. It's quite fun. But yeah, should really go to bed now. Yeah, and thanks for the follow, Dalek Sec. I think I have most of the components to build that. Yeah, sounds like you are also an electronics parts hoarder. Plans to customize the project? For sure. I would definitely like to increase RAM, maybe implement a couple of more instructions, maybe even implement like an input module, like some basic interrupt that triggers on like a button press or something like that. I think that would be cool to kind of interact from the outside with it. Maybe an additional like output module, like a GPU, like a graphics module. I have like an LCD screen, so maybe we can figure that out, but I have no clue about that yet. So first we finish this build, and then we hopefully know enough and have learned enough that we are able to customize it. What is your thesis about? Don't judge me. I don't. It's about smart contracts, blockchain smart contracts. I'm like reviewing basically smart contract security and vulnerabilities that exist in smart contracts. I personally don't have cryptocurrencies. I'm not interested. I'm not invested. Most of the stuff is all scam. But smart contracts are interesting because they are running on, a very weird computer that is the blockchain, or the nodes or whatever. So it's an interesting execution environment with interesting bugs and interesting security issues and security considerations. So I like that technical part. Is very fascinating for me. I have absolutely zero interest in the industry itself, and I think it's doomed to fail. I try to break it. I don't try to build something with it, right? And I always think would be cool to interact with PC. Yeah, I think what would be kind of cool, like one thing I imagine would be that chat can interact with it. So that you have like an Arduino or something that just like kind of, I don't know, writes to like either writes onto the bus or writes into like some kind of register that this computer then can read from. And so you could like pump out character by character or something like that. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, all right. Okay, I really have to go to bed. I didn't see the CCT talk about blockchain from last GPN. I haven't checked out any talks from GPN. I probably should catch up on that. Thanks for the reminder. Actually, I check it out. Yeah. Okay, good night. I will leave you with my exit screen, and then I will... should I host somebody? I will see if I host somebody, or maybe not. Let's see who is online. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and listening to the podcast tomorrow. So in about like 13 hours or so, or 14, 15 hours or so, I might go live again with the next stream of continuing building here. Okay, the title is of that talk has nothing to do with blockchain. Good to know. Thanks. I would have not found it otherwise, probably. Okay. Thanks. And yeah, maybe see you tomorrow on stream. Bye-bye.